So let me begin with our speakers, not in any order. So I'll begin with Leopoldo Boado, originally from Spain, and he is from Oracle. He ran Oracle Spain for about 6 years, and now he has regional responsibilities in terms of applications, and I'm sure he can explain that better than I can. We have Dimitris from MetLife, and he is from Greece. Dimitris Mazarkis. And he was appointed head of MetLife Gulf, which also in 2018, but he also covers Saudi Arabia. 27 years of experience in the insurance industry. Jean-Paul, on my left, Scheuer, originally from? France, okay. And he is the GM, the general manager for Sanofi Special Care for Greater Gulf. And he was country chair and general manager of Sanofi Gulf, also from 2016 to 2020. And then I have, on my extreme right, left, this is why I don't drive at all, is Mutasem Dajani, who is CEO of Deloitte Middle East since June 2020, and he leads a group of 6,000 professionals in 15 countries. And you are originally from?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, yes, yes. So let us welcome our great panel of CEOs. So the question that I have for each of you, and you can answer in any order you wish, what is your definition of sustainability? Everybody talks about it, but everybody has a different definition. A long time ago, it was far more traditional. It seemed to apply primarily to environmental concerns. So what is your definition? Anybody? You want to begin? Mutasem.
Okay. Is this thing working? Okay. So I think that's getting a broader definition every day. I mean, traditionally, when we talk about sustainability, what we think about, obviously, is the world around us, the immediacy of the world around us, and the way we live, the way we consume, and the way we go about our lives, and of course, the ability to keep doing that without impacting future generations. And that's really what has been, I think, the closest most immediate kind of definition that's accessible to most people. But actually, I think when you think about it, there's an economic component, obviously, which is a lot of what's going on today in terms of the way we live, climate change, consumption, or carbon footprint, all of that. But then there's, of course, a social aspect to sustainability as well. And when we think about the social aspect of sustainability, it's about, is the way we live sustainable? Are the decisions we take sustainable? Are they the best interest of our societies and communities? And if you think about the social aspect of sustainability, really what comes to mind are some of the development goals around sustainability, whether it's education or whether it's gender equality. I think you have to think about that, and that has to now be rooted in the definition of what we all think about when we consider sustainability. So there is the environmental aspect of it, and there is the consumption, carbon footprint, output, input model, all of that. But I think really the social aspect, for me, captures a lot of what we should be thinking about when we talk about sustainability today.
Okay, Jean-Paul?
I would define it like the bridge between today and tomorrow. The link between our present and the future. The impact of what we do as individuals, our cooperation on the society overall, and the legacy we will leave through this action. And I must say my perception of sustainability has really changed a lot over time. First of all, through what I'm living in my company. When I joined Sanofi 14 years ago, basically, this was not really a topic, right? Then a few years later, it became just a topic, just projects. Today, it is really fully embedded into our strategy and even our business strategy. I mean, just reading at the purpose of the company, which is we chase the miracle of science to improve people's life. Actually, that's really, I mean, has a very strong, significant meaning when it comes to sustainability. And of course, as an individual, it has really changed over time as well. I mean, I think that the turning point for me was when I got my first kid. I'm the lucky father of 2, actually, a daughter of 11 and a son of 8 soon. And obviously, I mean, the responsibility and accountability that I was having actually since the first day I got a kid has really completely changed. I remember at school for me, I mean, environment, sustainability was not at all a topic. It is today, probably every day at school, my children are getting actually exposed actually to environmental protection or to sustainability as a whole, and they reproduce this back at home. The pressure I have from my kids, actually, I mean, when it comes to water usage, to garbage disposal, actually, is very significant. And they are looking at me really, I mean, challenging me even on what is the world that we are going to leave to them and how me as a father, as an individual, as a man, I can have an impact to make it better, or at least to make sure that I'm going to leave a planet which is at least as good as the one that I had when I was a child at their age.
Well, I have a friend who said that she was brushing her teeth and her son came in and turned off the water while she was brushing her teeth. And he said, "You are wasting water." So I think education regarding sustainability has infused the new generation's attitude.
I'll tell you a story. I'm not going to tell you everything about my life, but at home, actually, I need to turn the water for quite a while before getting hot water. And my kids are basically telling me, it doesn't matter, let's get a cold shower, right? Which I don't really like. But yeah, this is exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Thank you. Leopoldo?
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. It's really an honor to be here. So sustainability for us, and especially for me. And we were talking about the difference between the past, the present, and the future. So I think sustainability is the ability to meet the present needs without compromising the future generation. Okay, so this is quite clear. And we are looking right now at sustainability probably in a totally different way at what we look in the past to sustainability. It was mainly environmental. Right now is social, is mainly economic. We are looking at growth, sustainable, and this is exactly what governments and also private companies are looking for. So there is a total change. And we in Oracle, we are really committed to sustainability. So the commitment is by 2025 to have all our operations powered by renewable energies. And we have a 2050 policy to have net zero emissions. And yeah, thank you. And on the other side, talking about the lesson learned, that is coming from the new generations, and we have so much to learn, from these new generations. So I have a son and a daughter, and they are living in Berlin, and I can tell you that they don't understand why we are using cars. Okay, so we want to have here in the UAE the most powerful car, biggest car. They don't understand it. They are in Berlin. They use bikes and they don't want to use cars. So I think there is a new trend that is coming that is going to have a huge impact. And I will explain some of the research that we have done regarding how important is going to be sustainability in the future for these new generations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Irene, for having me here.
Dimitris, you in the insurance field probably are up to hear about sustainability metrics.
In MetLife, we have our purpose in MetLife, always with you, living a more confident future. And I could say that this is quite close to whatever we're talking about sustainability, because sustainability is not just for today, how we're going to ensure the quality of life today, but also how we're going to secure the quality of life of the future generations, and at the same time, how we are going to secure the planet. So I couldn't agree more with my colleagues here. The understanding of sustainability has changed a lot, even for me. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I thought that it was just a corporate and social responsibility, do some charities or do some simple initiatives. And a little bit on wildlife, on the nature. But right now, this has changed completely. And the overall underlying consideration from human activity, economic growth, and the degradation of the planet has make this subject not just nice to have, but something that each and everyone has to focus. And I think that even each one of this room, each one of us might make small steps with a big impact. And this is the challenge today that we're facing with this sustainability, because we cannot see the impact of our actions.
Yeah.
And, but if you sum up all these actions, the impact is going to be incredible, and it's going to be in the future.
Thank you. But my question to each of you, beyond your own companies, why are companies now paying far more attention and making it actually part of branding than before? Why are they all of a sudden, I mean, every company seems to have, you know, some kind of targets, or they talk about it more, you know, even if they don't do anything, they're talking about it more. So why is there this emphasis all of a sudden?
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay. I think that the pandemic, the COVID-19, played a significant role in that. I think that created an awareness to the societies, to the individuals all over the world. And at the same time, the investor has started to put more pressure on us, how we're going to ensure not the short-term earnings, that it was always the objective, especially before 2000, but how we're going to take care for the overall ecosystem. It is not only the regulators' work, but also the companies to start playing a role towards that direction. And I think that as COVID has accelerated also the digital transformation, has accelerated the focus of all organizations towards the sustainability. Sustainability and has become environmental, social, and government consideration.
Leopoldo?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think COVID has played a clear role in this transformation, in this change. So it has really spotlighted sustainability, social aspects, and also something that is very important, that is health. And I'm going to give you an example that has really impacted our strategy in Oracle. So after COVID, we have made the biggest acquisition in Oracle history, buying Cerner. Cerner is a company that is fully dedicated to medical records. So we spent 28 billion in this acquisition just to have medical records and to allow investigation, to try to avoid any other pandemics, and to work on research and investigation in new diseases. This is just an example. So in last year, I think it was in 2022, we drove a research with Harvard Professional Development and with one of the professors, and it was around 15 countries, and we interviewed 11,000 consumers and business professionals, business leaders, and it was very, very clear that 78% of the interviewed, they were not happy with the progress on sustainability and these social aspects and health themes. Also, that was, quite scary, is 95% of the people interviewed agreed that human bias and also operational challenges are holding back these themes around sustainability, 95%. And finally, and this is talking about, engagements, with companies, 68% of the people, of the interviews, they said very clearly that they will stop relationships with companies that they don't have sustainability on the top of their strategy. And 70% will stop working for companies that they don't have sustainability as a top priority in their agenda.
So consumers and shareholders are making their opinions to companies. You find that to be true as well, Jean-Pierre?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely many factors which are strengthening the topics of sustainability in corporations. I would think about two very important. I agree that COVID obviously has strengthened even more, actually, sustainability to be a topic within companies. It has shown how vulnerable we are as a society.
Yeah.
And it has also shown that we can really do much better collectively when it comes to managing, actually, topics around sustainability. And if I talk about my topic, if you just talk about access to healthcare, it was not a new topic, right? But this COVID crisis has even more shown how much unequal access to healthcare was.
Yes.
And this has pushed us as a company to really completely review our strategy and policy on how we can give a better access to people, to treatment that they need. I'll just give an example. We have been declaring, a couple of years ago, that we would give access to 30 essential products at very low cost, actually, in the 40 poorest countries in the world, or the fact that we are treating more than 10 million patients actually affected by neglected disease such as malaria. And obviously this has been embedded not only now as a separate project, but really as part of the strategy of the company. The second factor for me, to join a bit what has been said, is somehow the pressure of the young generation.
Yes.
When you take this famous Gen Z, right, actually they are considering the society and their working objective completely differently from at least the ones that I had, actually, and I'm not that old, right? But their vision of why they would be working for an organization, what they will be joining, and the impact that they would have in this organization is much more important even than what is the packages they're going to get or what is the career move that they're going to have inside, right? And what is really driving their choice of joining an organization or not is really actually if they feel that this company has really a sense of purpose, really has a policy, toward people, toward employees, toward environmental protection. And I believe that that's really pushed and put pressure on companies to really change quickly if they want to continue to be attractive for talents.
Well, so from the consumer and shareholders and now workers also being very concerned, future workers, about the mission of a company. And I do agree with that. Now, Mutasem, from Deloitte's perspective, and you advised many companies, what have you seen has driven many companies to now be responsive in a way that they weren't before?
I would just recap on one of the points that was made earlier and just give our perspective on that in terms of the pandemic and the pandemic's impact. So first of all, and as you mentioned, we have a wonderful access to so many organizations around the world through our relationships in terms of client service. But one of the things that we get to do is run surveys globally every year around climate and as well as expectations that executives have about years ahead. So in 2021, when we were well into the pandemic, about 2/3 of executives in organizations, executives at leading organizations, did believe that the pandemic had actually set back all of our efforts in terms of sustainability. Into 22, when we were not quite yet done, but almost done with the pandemic, I think there was a sentiment that around, 40% indicated that we needed to do more, and then now we believe that 80% are saying, actually, we are doing more and we're doubling down on our efforts in terms of sustainability. So I think there was a shift, and there was an impact, and now there is a shift, no question about that. In terms of values in organizations, and why is it taking more importance, or why are we seeing it more visible in the workplace or in terms of what corporations and organizations are saying about sustainability? Well, I think it comes down to values. And it comes down to the social aspect of sustainability that we talked about earlier. And I think we all came out of the pandemic realizing the world had changed, probably had changed for good in certain ways. And that really what people are focusing on now is when they want to work with an organization, when they want to be part of a team, when they want to be included in a community of fellow workers, they want to know they're going to be taken care of. And they want to know about the values of that organization. So when you talk about sustainability in your organization, the importance of sustainability in everything that you do, from the top down, what you're saying is that people matter and that taking care of your people matters. And that's an important signal, particularly for the younger generation. Many of whom are entering the workforce today. They grew up in the pandemic, either finishing school, in university, in lockdown. Psychologically, people have changed in terms of the way they think about their well-being, about who they want to work with, and about the values that are important in organizations today. So I think it's a critical signal. Thank you. And I really do believe it's a critical signal about what matters to you as an organization, where your values are, and whether you will take care of people.
Well, during the pandemic, we were stuck at home, and many of us were just watching a screen, big screens, small screens. And don't you think the media coverage of natural disasters, the fires, the floods, the earthquakes, the more severe weather, don't you think that had a lot to do as well with crafting public opinion? So that you can have a survey in which the majority say, we got to do something about this?
Yep.
Okay? What is the media not covering? What kind of public information still needs to be out there so that more steps can be taken to address sustainability challenges? Do you remember when, during the pandemic and everybody was in lockdown, in India a lot of people said, we saw the mountains for the first time because cars weren't being driven. They all of a sudden saw clear skies. Don't you think that that's a public message that you don't even have to drill down? But Ali Formawi mentioned earlier, you can have knowledge, you know what's needed, but there's a level called responsibility. You can have the ambition of wanting to address climate change as a company, but making changes happen, that's a totally different animal, if you will. What could be a driver for companies to address it much more quickly and much more proactively than they have done so far? Anybody?
Well, if you're talking about a driver for change and driver for action, I think it comes really in every organization today. You talk about tone at the top, and you talk about how the culture has changed in organizations around values and around social sustainability. So I think if you want to just talk about being more inclusive and caring about the impact on everyone, I think one of the things that we did learn over the years and what studies have shown, if you think about, again, going back to the UN development goals around sustainability, so education and equality, inclusiveness, the impact, by the way, on women in terms of disruption that is caused by climate change is disproportionate. I think that's already been demonstrated in terms of the developing world and what the impacts are of industrialization and climate change. So I think in our organizations, we have to think about that, and I think we have to think about how we conduct ourselves in society. I think we have to think about how we message to our people as well as to our clients about the importance of those development goals and what we're going to be doing about them. So that is an important part of decision-making, I think, in every business today. And that's just one area I think that should be focused on by anyone that's a leader.
Europe is now developing all kinds of ESG metrics by which they're measuring companies' performance. And then investor funds are also demanding some sort of response from companies in terms of how far they're addressing these issues. Does that help? Do you think government regulations that are now coming down the pike Is that helpful in terms of driving earlier change and greater change in terms of actions on the part of companies or any other institution?
Yeah, sure. I think he has a huge impact in promoting compliance inside the companies and is helping every company with the best practices regarding sustainability. Again, there is a huge pressure right now in the companies coming from the newcomers, the new generations, and also for those companies that we are serving customers, also our customers are asking us if we are complying with these metrics. So definitely, and it's not only in Europe, UAE has launched the 2050 zero emission policy, right. And I think it's the first country in the Gulf that is addressing this issue, and I think this is going to help all the companies in the Gulf, to comply with these targets and metrics.
I think it even becomes a selling argument, right? Even for business, actually. So beyond, yes, you have index as stock exchange now, really measuring the contribution of companies and how much actually they have integrated sustainability strategies within actually the overall business strategies. And I think this is something that is very much looked at by investors, right? And that can be quite decisive actually on the valuation of the company today. But even beyond this, it can really be also, yes, as I was saying, a selling argument. I just take one example in healthcare. Actually, we are talking a lot today about the decarbonization of healthcare through different tools, like, of course, more usage of digital, but also changing the way we are delivering products, actually, or the way we are using the products, and so on. And that becomes as well, a significant argument when you address yourself to the authorities or even to patients or healthcare professionals, showing that you are not only here to provide treatments, right, but to take the overall ecosystem into account. And that also, is a way to make a difference versus your competitors. So that's also bringing an additional interest beyond all that has been said already, which is obviously even more important, but that's placing an additional argument on why actually as a company, this is a topic which is today actually among the 2 or 3 top priorities in the overall strategies of corporations.
It is an area that needs more work, though, because although all organizations want to report important information and share information about what they're doing in terms of metrics or achievements around sustainability, just think about the fact that it took over 100 years to get to common financial reporting standards around the world that are used today. That took a very long time, huge effort, and we still have scandals, and we barely understand sometimes what companies are saying about their performance. When you think about what the standards are and the form of reporting is around sustainability, we're trying to get that sorted out in 5 or 10 years. And so many different practices and so many different definitions of what sustainability means, how it's measured, how it's reported, still exists today. So I think that's still an area that needs a lot of attention and needs to improve. And you'll find that most organizations are being pushed into this direction rather than leading on it.
I know. That's how come defining global standards, as you say, in terms of sustainability is actually a work in progress. Because as all of you have said, there hasn't been much discussion until recently. Dimitris.
I wanted to add that I couldn't agree less that the introduction of KPIs is on the right direction. And, I'm an actuary in a profession, so I could always use numbers and KPIs in order to assess the different decisions. At the same time, as you said, this is a work in progress. We are in the baby steps in all that stuff, and we have to take into consideration the complexity of what we're talking about. And we have even examples, and I don't want to say names, companies that are doing quite good, let's say, in environmental aspect of ESG, but not good that they are not that good in other aspects. And this creates a lot of complexity.
What other aspects, Dimitris? Build up on that.
It might be in corporate governance, or because we're talking about these 3, environmental, social, and corporate governance. Because the main challenge that we're facing is how we're going to balance the short-term objective and goals with the medium long-term objective and goals. So the one is that it's good to have all these KPIs. At the same time, as you said, we have to take into consideration the complexity. There is no one-size-fits-all solution across the countries, across the industries, across the different companies. And the most critical for me, and I want to use the example of accounting. Just think that most of the companies today, or all the companies, they are using IFRS 4. Right now, we're going to IFRS 17 in order to have a better comparison about our performance as a private organization. And this is something that has been involved over, I don't know, a lot of years. While whatever we're talking about ESG and KPIs is something in the early stage. For us in MetLife, our global CEO has made, I could say, a bold public commitment to be, MetLife to be, by 2030, in the top quartile of organizations regarding sustainability and especially diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this gives us the opportunity to measure ourselves against a moving target which defines the best of the best.
Thank you. It is a moving target. All of you have mentioned the social component of sustainability. So let's go deeper into that. This is an audience that clearly knows that equality, never mind just gender equality, but equality in all measures, isn't here. How does it mesh with sustainability goals? Where do you see, an intersection, if you will, between the quest for equality and our attempts at sustainability?
Yeah. So I think sustainability, it's about, it's everything about being social, it's about being social fair, justice, and of course, gender equality encapsulates inside these concepts. You were talking about this percentile and the quadrant regarding diversity. There is a study from McKinsey that is saying that the companies that are in this diversity percentile right now, they have 25 more chances to be over average in terms of performance than the rest of the companies. And this is very, very clear. We in Oracle, we have many initiatives about gender equality. And one is, what is probably the main one that we have, is Oracle Women Leadership. I'm the executive sponsor for Oracle Women Leadership in this region.
Yay!
And, yeah, of course. And I'm an ally, and I can tell you that we are making very big progress and very big steps. So the first one, and I'm extremely proud to say it, is that we have a CEO, a female CEO in Saudi Arabia. And this was something that was impossible to think some years ago. We have also a female CEO in Qatar, also showing that this is moving and we are moving in the right direction. So at the end, it's about engaging diverse workforce, it's about inclusive leadership, and really foster this sense of belonging to the company. So for sure, there are a lot of things that we should do, but I think we are moving in the right direction.
Good. Qatar and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
The study, that Leopoldo was mentioning showed that more women on boards and in senior management of companies show a greater responsibility and responsiveness to climate change challenges. So more women on the boards, more women CEOs, and a quicker response, if you will. So going deeper into equality, you had mentioned developing economies, which tend to suffer more from natural disasters, and it's usually women and children who get killed in those floods and fires, et cetera.
That is one aspect of it, the climate aspect. If you go back to the social aspect as well, so if women are deprived from, equal access to education. That necessarily has an impact on their participation in the workforce and opportunities that they have to equally participate in the workforce as well. And generally, I think the number is something like $16 trillion are taken out of lifelong economic growth if women don't have that equal access. So the gap in terms of education that leads to the gap in terms of workforce participation or equal opportunity in terms of work definitely is bad for society, not just bad for women. Okay, so that's something we have to remember. And that goes back to this whole issue about, how are we going to do better for everyone in terms of social sustainability if women's equality is not addressed? So that's an issue that starts at education, it continues in the workforce, and therefore when you're talking about an issue like gender equality in the workplace, access to leadership opportunities, not just employment, but leadership opportunities, you're talking about really what's best for society in terms of social sustainability as well. Those issues are inextricably linked, which is why gender equality and quality education are goals in the Sustainability Development Goals of the United Nations. So I think every organization has to onboard that thinking. Every organization has to consider the fact that when it's looking at gender equality, when it's looking at leadership roles for women and equal access and representation across the organization, that's actually serving not only the sustainability agenda, but actually society as a whole. So I think that for me, at least, as a leader in an organization, that connection is very clear. And I think it should be clear and is becoming clear for most organizations.
Jean-Pierre, a lot of women, even in my country, the United States, have limited access to quality health care. That is an economic issue. And it worsened during COVID because those from poorer communities had less access to vaccinations quickly. Is that something that you think could be improved upon more?
Overall, actually, anyway, as I was mentioning, and not only for women, but there is a very big inequality when it comes to access to healthcare. And in some regions of the world, actually, and even in developed countries, you were mentioning the US, actually, it's even more acute, right?
Yes.
And obviously, for different social reasons, it is impacting more women and even children, actually, than it is for men who generally, in some of the society, have a job, actually, or have actually a priority access, right, for different reasons. But overall, actually, there is a lot of improvements to be done when it comes to access to healthcare. And I think as a healthcare company, we have also a responsibility in ensuring that this is the case. And that actually you have a certain number of action and policies that you can implement to make sure that you will give an equal access actually to vaccination when it comes to vaccination, but overall to a better care actually, whatever your gender. I think beyond this actually, companies today really, as it was said, understand that the way to measure success is not anymore only, through your sales performance, but that there are also a certain number of other metrics that matters. And in particular, we were mentioning sustainability, but also actually when it comes to diversity and gender balance. And I believe that all companies today actually are publicly giving figures when it comes to diversity and gender balance. For instance, I'm really proud to work in an organization where within the past 3 years we have gone from less than 20% of women being general managers to today having more than 40% of women being, of general managers being women. And I think that within only 3 years, that's really a remarkable effort. Here, not only, promoting women, but it's just to have a system which is more fair, right? And this is what we are talking about here. We are not talking about giving a priority to women or to someone because of the gender. But it is really, making sure that within the organization you are implementing a fair system of selection, right? And that one person is not going to be chosen because he is this or he is that. And this is what we are talking about here. And this is often something that men in particular do not really understand. The philosophy and the objective is really not to favor one gender, but is to make sure that, again, this is fairly done. I think the UAE, I don't know a lot of other countries which can exemplify as much actually how much diversity is important and how much diversity is powerful. In my own leadership team, out of 15 persons in my management committee, 11 are from different nationalities. beyond the fact that I have a 50-50 gender balance, by the way. I mean, 11 and from different nationalities. And I think that it's not a hazard why actually our team here is considered as one of the best performing teams in the organization. This diversity is bringing a lot of assets, right? A lot of values. It's not easy every day, actually. I mean, you know, when you have a common topic, a common issues to discuss, obviously, there are a lot of debates because we do not have the same point of view, actually, on all of them, and that's creating sometimes, very tense situations. But at the end of the day, that's very rich in terms of discussion, in terms of what everyone is bringing, and here again, actually, you need not only to have this diversity, but you need to create an environment where everyone is free to speak. Bringing transparency and to speak openly, because this is how you are going to benefit as much as possible, actually, from the diversity that a country like the UAE is offering to you.
And Jean-Paul, you mentioned a really important point. Let's recognize the country that's hosting this amazing forum today. So setting the tone in this country, recent law that came into effect in the UAE requires half of the Federal National Council, the legal setting body of the country, to be female. Our listed companies in the UAE today, so if you're in the capital markets, you must have at least one female board member. Now, that maybe one is not enough, but it's a mandate, and that's very important. So I think it's really important that the governments look at this issue in depth as well, because they set the tone. They do set the tone for corporates, and they do set the tone for organizations across the private sector as well.
So two things: CEOs' commitment and implementation of equity goals, government regulations that tend to speed up equality metrics, if you will, the mission of the company as well, in terms of serving its clients, its customers, its workers, seems to move the needle. But if I just want to ask from each of you quickly, because I want to have the audience be able to ask questions of you. Just one line, what would you tell to a fellow CEO regarding equality and sustainability? Anybody? Just one instruction to some CEO.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Leopoldo. Yeah. So I think first should be at the top of the agenda, should be part of the strategy of the company. And of course, to be embedded in the culture of the company. Second, I think, as CEOs, we should launch initiatives and programs that allow employees to engage and to make an impact. And I think third is to lead by example. You cannot promote inside a company sustainability if we are not the first ones leading by example.
That was 4 things.
Okay.
So do you prefer just one or?
No, one.
Okay, if I have to pick, in my mind I had a framework to answer your question, because what we are talking is a change of the mindset. This is a change management that required a proper, let's say, framework. But if I have to pick one, is lead by example. If you want me also to add the rest of that framework, is to create that training of our people to better understand what is needed, give them the resources that are required, set up the metrics, the internal metrics, make that public commitments that I mentioned before, and reward the best behavior. This is a journey. It's not something that we have to achieve or we are going to be able to achieve in a month, in a year. And we have seen the progress. And I'm assuming having that discussion and having that alignment among us here, this is an indication that something important has happened all of this year.
Thank you.
I would tell him, let's walk the talk together, right? Because, yes, he has to set the tone at the top of the organization, but at the end of the day, it's the responsibility of all of us senior leaders actually to make it happen at all levels of the organization.
Maybe I'll be a little bit controversial.
Oh, be controversial,
Well,
please.
Someone needs to be eventually, I think. So, as a male leader, I would say to my fellow male leaders, and to others in organizations where maybe a lot of the decision-making is dominated by men, which is don't resist and don't be afraid of quotas. Because quotas usually have very positive impact in the unintended areas that you're trying to improve in terms of equality. I'll give you an example. So in our own organization, and I'm talking about our Middle East team, and I know Rana is cringing. My people on purpose leader here, my wonderful people on purpose leader, Rana Salab is here, and she's cringing as I'm saying this maybe, but maybe I'm oversharing, but actually we were struggling to increase the representation of senior leadership coming up through our organization. A lot of people in our business, legacy decisions taken in the past have put people in positions today where they've risen to leadership roles. So to make that change happen is really hard unless you start thinking about, level setting the playing field in terms of the access by women to leadership roles. So one of the things we started to talk about is, well, let's at least say we should have a disproportionate representation of women in leadership roles, which can be done quickly. And that sets the tone for the rest of the organization. What we found out was very quickly, maybe in a few years, Rana, we already are seeing that the intake that we have is now higher in terms of women than men. We crossed 51% in terms of our graduate intake of people last year. And I have a feeling that's going to go even higher than 51%. But you set the tone by taking decisions that sometimes are hard, and quotas can help.
Quotas can help. That's my favorite line.
Can
Sure.
I say something here? So when we appointed Riham as the country manager, as the CEO of Saudi Arabia, our CEO, which is a lady, is Safra Katz. It's a very, very strong woman. They asked her, why Riham? Why this lady? And she said, is the country manager, is the CEO, not because she's a lady, it's because she's the best. And she's the best. And the only thing that we have done in Oracle is removing the barriers and the obstacles for her to show that she's the best.
Safra Katz is a very powerful woman, so you're lucky to have her.